welcome to Cook With Me, Lord Selkirk Park Family Resource Center style. We are excited to make with you today potato soup with cheddar and bacon in it as well. So to get started, if you can take out, you should have 6 potatoes. If you have one little extra one, it's because it's probably really small and won't make a big difference. So there should be about 6 potatoes to 7. You should have 2 carrots, 2 celery, 1 onion, chicken broth, and you also want a pot that you're going to be able to put it all in. So our first step is that we're going to start by peeling our potatoes. That's step 1. I like to grab a bag and peel my potatoes over a bag. For some people, using a paring knife is something that you like to use. For others, using a paring knife is too difficult. So if you have a carrot cutter, a carrot peeler, you can use a carrot peeler as well. I don't like to keep the peels on the potatoes for the soup. So we will just take the peels off the potato. Okay, now that our potatoes are peeled, we're gonna take our knife and we're gonna cut the potato in half. And then you're gonna have 2 halves. And then I'm gonna take one of the halves and cut it in half again down the center. And then I'm just gonna cut into, so I have about 1-inch piece sizes of potato. And then I'll do that to the other side, just like that. So you'll do that to all your potatoes. We're done with our potatoes. You can see I've put the cut potatoes in the pot. Okay, now that we've chopped them all up. Now we're gonna move on to our next vegetable, which is the carrots. So we have 2 carrots. I don't like to have the peel on the carrot, so I'm gonna take my carrot slicer, peeler, and just peel the skin off the carrots. And I like to use the plastic bag as well, just to put all the things that are gonna go into the garbage after. It's just an easier way to clean up when you're done. Some people might not have a carrot peeler, so I think we might actually peel your carrots for you before you get these carrots, so you won't need to do this step. But in future, if you do decide to make this soup again, you're gonna want to peel the skin off the carrot. Just slice up, and I'm going to be chopping them up. We want them to be actually fairly small. And these are actually pretty good sized carrots, so you don't want to make the pieces too thick. Guys, so now that we've cut up our carrots, Amina, can you show them the carrots in the pot? There you go. So the carrots are in the pot with potatoes. Thank you, Amina. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our celery, and before we cut up our celery though, we need to wash them, and we wanna make sure we're washing them good. I just like to use cold water and get anything that shouldn't be on them off of it. Okay, after you're done, just let them dry a little bit. Guys, so I've got my celery here. What I do is I like to cut the ends off. I don't like to use the ends. I just cut them off and discard the ends in the garbage. Then I like to go right into the middle of my celery, cut it in half. And then I like to take one of the halves, and split it down the center into 2 pieces. And then I put the 2 pieces beside each other, and then I just chop these up into small pieces. All right, guys, so now that we're done chopping up our celery, you can see we've put the celery in the pot with the carrots and the potatoes. Now we just have one more vegetable to do, and that's the onion. So we're just going to peel the onion. I like to cut the ends off on both ends first, put my peels in the garbage. And then I take off the first round, just so I have the onion completely peeled. And then what I do is I like to take it and cut it in half. So then I have 2 halves. And then I will probably cut it a couple times. 1, 2, 3 times. I make 1, 2, 3 slices down one of the halves. And then I turn it sideways, and then I just chop it into little pieces going in the opposite direction.
Start again.
Oh. Okay, guys, you can see that now we've chopped up the celery, or the onion, sorry about that. The onion, we've chopped it up and we've put it in the pot with the celery, carrots, and potatoes. So now we're gonna actually move to our chicken broth. On the recipe, it says that we are to now add the chicken broth into our pot. So our recipe calls for 14.5 ounces. And those are cans. It says 2 cans. So instead of doing 2 cans, we decided just to use this 1 liter. When we calculated the measurements, it pretty much is this whole 1 liter that we're gonna put into the pot. Okay, so we're just gonna use the whole 1 liter. So we'll go ahead and put it into the pot. All right, everyone, so now that we're done chopping up all of our vegetables and we've added our chicken broth, Amina and I are using a hot plate to cook our soup on. Okay, so at this point, you're gonna go to your stove and you're gonna go onto your element and put your soup on. And you want to bring your soup, I believe the recipe says that we want to bring it to a boil. Once we bring the soup to a boil, we'll then adjust the heat to go down to medium heat. So in order to get it to a boil, we need to keep it on a high heat. Once you start seeing a bubble though, we're gonna turn it down and keep it there for about, probably continue to cook it on medium for about 15 to 20 minutes, okay? And in the meantime, I'm gonna put the lid, I'm gonna cover up my pot just so we can get nice and warm. And so now we're gonna put some salt and pepper into our soup, just for flavor. You're gonna notice that we have 2 Ziploc bags. One of them has salt in it and the other one has pepper. So what you're gonna do is just take your Ziploc bags, reach in it for a good pinch and sprinkle your salt. And then also reach into your Ziploc bag and take a good pinch of your pepper and sprinkle it into your soup. Okay, so now that we're just waiting for our soup, it's on medium heat now. It came to a boil, so now I've turned down the temperature and I've put it to a medium heat. Now it's gonna cook on a medium heat for about 15 to 20 minutes. Or it may need a little bit longer. It depends. We want to use a fork in a little bit to test our potatoes to see how soft they are. If 15, 20 minutes, it's good. We will then move on to our next step. In the meanwhile, while that is boiling on medium heat for 15, 20 minutes, we are going to move and just talk about our next step. So our next step, you'll have a Ziploc bag of flour, And actually, we have measured out the flour to the exact measurements for this recipe. And then you're gonna notice a little cube of butter. So you're going to be using that. And then of course, everybody would have received a 1 liter of 2% milk. You're gonna want to get a whisk. If you have a whisk, we will use it. If you don't have a whisk, that's okay. You can just use a fork. You can just use a fork. And we're just gonna check the potatoes to see if they're soft. And I can see that they're soft because the potato came in half. So it's ready to move on to the next step. We just have our soup off to the side. We grabbed a frying pan. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take our butter and we're gonna put the whole thing of butter into the frying pan. This way we can melt our butter. Once our butter is melted, we're going to add our flour. Okay guys, so we're continuing to melt our butter. Make sure it's all melted before you add the flour. I think what this step that we're doing, it's actually called that we're making the, I think it's called, actually I shouldn't say it because I don't know. I thought it was the au jus, but I think I have it wrong. Okay, now that the butter is all melted, we're gonna add the flour to the mixture, to the butter. And again, it's measured out to its exact measurement. So you just need to dump the whole bag into your pot. And then I take my whisk and just whisk it. This process is actually going to make the soup creamy. All right, so now that that is mixed together, we're going to add our milk. So we'll slowly add our milk. Our recipe calls for 2.5 cups of milk. So I'm going to take my measuring cup. And so it's a 1 cup measuring cup that I'm using for right now. So it's calling for 2.5 cups. So I'm going to slowly start to put in 1 cup, and then I'll eventually add the second cup, and then of course the half cup. So that's 1 cup of milk. This is 2 cups of milk. Again, whisking it as I pour it in. And now I'm going to use my half a cup. All right, so we're just gonna continue to whisk it now that we have all our milk in with our flour and butter mixture. And this is, you're gonna start to feel it get a little bit thicker. And so we're just gonna keep whisking it until it gets nice and thick. Once it gets nice and thick, we're gonna add it to our pot of soup. And this is what's gonna make our soup creamy and a little bit thicker. Okay. All right, so now that we have our flour mixture nice and thick, we're gonna add it to our soup. Now I'm gonna just mix my soup together. Maybe take now that we have our flour mixture mixed in with our soup mixture, we're gonna go ahead and add sour cream. So you each got one of these containers. So we're only going to put half of this container in the soup. Okay, so only half. So I'm just gonna take my fork, divide it in half down the center, and add it into the soup. All right, so now that we've added the sour cream, we're just gonna give it a good mix and mix it into the soup. And this will help with making it nice and creamy. It smells delicious. Can you guys smell it?
I can.
Again, we're doing this all on a medium heat. We don't want to have it on high. We just want to keep it on a medium heat because we don't want to burn anything, right? Okay, so let's take a look. And it looks like our soup is pretty much ready. Okay, put our bacon in our frying pan. Let's cook this on a medium heat. Bacon gives off a lot of fat, so you do not need to grease your pan because it's greasy enough. It will provide all the grease it needs while in the pan. Okay, so again, your bacon's in a Ziploc bag. You're gonna wanna take it and put it in your frying pan, okay? Okay, so we're frying up the bacon in its whole pieces. Once it's done frying, we will remove it from the frying pan. You're gonna notice that we gave you a couple paper towels. The paper towels are meant to put over a plate. So basically, once the bacon is done cooking, you're going to remove the cooked bacon from the frying pan and place it on the plate with the paper towels. The paper towels just so it can kind of collect some of the excess grease. Okay guys, we've got our bacon still cooking. Again, we're just doing this process for garnish on top of our bowl of soup. Now we've got our 2 green onions. We're just giving them a quick wash, and then we'll chop them up. You can pause it. Okay.
Ooh, this looks good.
And again, it's just for a garnish on top of your soup. Okay, and so you just want to cut it up just a little bit. You don't have to cut the whole thing, just a little bit of the green. And then this side, just throw it for waste. Okay guys, our bacon is nice and cooked. It's a little crispy. You want it crispy. I think it will taste good in the soup. It's actually to whatever your preference is. Some people don't even like bacon in their soup, and you do not need to use the bacon. If you don't eat bacon, don't add it. You can just get rid of that piece and that step. You don't have to do that step. So I just chop them up into little pieces. So then this way we can use it as garnish on top of our soup if this is something that you want. Be careful when you're handling your knives. You don't want to cut your fingers. So we're just gonna put some in our bowl. And then you're going to go over to your cheese. Take your cheese and sprinkle some cheese on top. And then sprinkle some of your garnishes. Your green onion. And then if you want bacon, you'll sprinkle some bacon on top as well. And that's it. Bon appetit.